I feel like a lot of people bash it down because it sounds transphobic or homophobic. And I feel like when we twist words around, because a girl sent me a video and said the same thing. He didn't say, "Hey, he said, "Hey, if that's what that's what you want to identify as, go right ahead. But regardless of what you are, you're still biologically a male. You're still biologically a female."
That's a fallacious argument.
Okay. What do you mean fallacious?
I mean that's a fake argument. It's a fictitious argument. That argument doesn't make any sense. And I can explain to you why. But I also wanted to challenge the fact that heterosexual men are always bashed on something. First things first, there are lots of heterosexual men that love trans women, right? That will openly love trans women. They're not gay because they don't, because
That's hard. That's a hard question.
No, they're not gay because they like trans women. They're still straight because she's a woman, because her gender is female. And when we talk about attraction, we talk about attraction to gender and not biological.
You're trying to buy the feminine
energy, the qualities
of
of that person, and not necessarily their biological sex. Our attraction is not based off, yes, biological sex plays role in it because we're attracted to people's bodies as well, but our attraction to other people is not just physical. There's a mental and emotional part to it too. There's a cultural part, a social part to our attraction to other people too. So a lot of that stuff has to do with social construction and not just what parts you have.
Hello guys, this is the Quest of the Future Messiahs, and I'm Kamal. I'm not in the cut today, I'm actually hosting.
You're actually here, exactly.
Yeah, I'm actually present. We have a special guest today. I'll let him introduce himself.
What's up, y'all? My name is Quentin Merritt. And I'm on here because I heckled Ben Shapiro, I guess.
And to my right we have...
If you Messiah, man, welcome to the Quest of the Future Messiahs, and I got my man Kamal in the cut presenting for us. And we got Xavier in the back just chilling as usual.
What's up?
So, like Kamal said, introduce yourself, give, your background.
All right, so, hey, y'all, my name's Quentin Merritt. I'm from, Raleigh, North Carolina. I am, queer. I'm a mathematician. I'm a physicist. I study these subjects in school right now. Mm-hmm. I'm a McNair Scholar. I am a National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellow. And I'm a friend and a brother and a human being, and I'm excited to have this conversation.
So, what made you, this may be a hilarious question, but going to someone like Ben Shapiro, what made you come in with shorts, sandals, and in a tank top? Because that was bold. I wouldn't do that myself, but that was bold, I wouldn't do that,
That's such an interesting and funny question to me. Because it's who am I finna dress up for? You know what I'm saying? It's hot outside. It's a nice day. I'm trying to enjoy the day.
I would look presentable at least, to look at least etiquette, for I guess people that are viewing at least. So I guess it's really portraying an image. So when you come and you talk to someone that to me at least that's kind of significant, I feel just that image to look at least he look like he know what he talking about. At least to give that, I guess to give that rivalry if it came to be. But what made you ask that question to him? What made you say that? Because I was bold.
Well, that's interesting to me. I wanna take a second to elaborate on something. Why did I come up in shorts and a tank top, blah blah blah? I'm black. You know what I'm saying? No matter what I wore, people gonna look at me like I'm black regardless, and think I'm not qualified to speak on what I want to speak about regardless. So dressing up for them, or dressing down for whoever's gonna be watching, these people that share these same homophobic, queerphobic, white supremacist views as Ben Shapiro, I'm not there to entertain them. I'm there to challenge them, and challenge their perceptions. And black people's image, has always been some sort of, it has always been a litmus test to see whether or not we deserve the rights we want. I'm not going to play into these respectability politics or dress or have my hair the way you want me to, what is acceptable for black people. That's not on me. You feel me? I don't have to cater my experience as a human being to white people.
But I do feel I guess from the people I look up to, and that's something like, you know, I try to like understand at least, because like my hair looks okay. But if you want to talk about, I guess, like getting your hair twisted or getting your hair braided, I often hear that it looks less presentable, and especially with like Kevin Samuels, he had to cut off his hair to make himself look presentable, and a lot of people that are successful black men usually have their hair cut, and you know, and wear all these suits and stuff, and I admire that to a certain extent, but not in a way as in like you have to remove a piece of yourself for you to be, I guess, successful.
Yeah.
I understand your point of view, but I disagree.
Yeah.
You know, our Afro textured hair is one of our most like unique features.
Exactly.
You know, like the way my hair grows out of my head is not going to be deemed it's not going to be deemed disrespectful. It's not going to be deemed unpresentable. You know, like it's the way it grows. I don't gotta straighten it or cut it or have waves or whatever you think that like black people should like have that looks good to you.
Yeah.
Because people come up to me every day like, oh my God, your hair's so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Because I don't, you know, ascribe to that. Because I let myself be the black person that I am. You know, like why limit myself or my expression of my humanity and my culture and my ethnicity to fit in to this fake ass, you know, white supremacist bullshit? I don't need to do that.
And also, like, I guess, like, I looked at your response to him, like, I guess, like, belittling you.
Yeah.
So I guess, like, what made you even want to come up and ask that question to him?
Yeah.
Or, you know, respond.
Yeah, well, there's, like, a whole story behind that. So me and my buddy Will's a Mexican-American man, and I'm African-American. You know, we got tickets to go to Ben Shapiro because we are just, like, you know, we have, like, a interesting sense of humor, and we were like, you know, how funny would it be to see, like, you know, all of the bullshit that Ben Shapiro is going to say out of his mouth at this rally, and just discuss it. Because he's a biologist. He studies biology.
Okay.
I study mathematics and physics. He has a minor in chemistry. And so, you know, like, together we, you know, pretty much fill a pretty wide range of scientific disciplines. You know, and so we have, like, a good, like, base knowledge about what is or isn't, you know, scientifically correct. You know? But that wasn't the point. We already knew that about ourselves. So we were just going to get a laugh out of it and see, like, oh, this is bullshit, blah, 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 and go about, like looking at it like, well, it's kind of crazy that all these people believe all this stuff because it's not true.
Yeah.
You know? And we were just trying to find the humor in it. And so my friend, as we were walking there, like, through campus to get to the event, he, shouted out the idea, like, man, you should heckle him, you know? You should, like, go out there and, like, make fun of him.
Was you heckling him?
Yeah.
Oh, you was screaming?
No, not, like, screaming, like, going up there and just making fun of him.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, you should go up there and make fun of him. Like, go up there, ask a question, you know, like, challenge him and make fun of him. He said, because who else would do that besides you? Yeah. And I was like, I mean, yeah, you're right. I think that it should be kind of funny. And, I mean, I knew Ben Shapiro was big. I've definitely seen him on the internet a lot. But I don't listen to him. Like, I don't really, like, think about, like, how impactful he is and, like, you know, the, like, right-wing part of the internet. Because why would I concern myself with what those types of people think?
Yeah.
You know? And so, like, because it's built off of our oppression. Like, that's, like, the core of their values, you know? Like, like, transphobia, as we can see, by the people that support Ben Shapiro, that's a core value. Because he came here to try to spread his message of transphobia as his core value.
Is that transphobia, though?
Debating, first things first, we can't debate identities. You can't debate somebody's identity. How am I supposed to debate your identity as a black man? Be like, oh, your blackness isn't valid. You're not black enough. You don't matter because you're not black.
Is that what he said?
By trying to categorize trans people from a biological perspective, absolutely. Because the science points to the fact that gender is socially constructed. That doesn't mean that it's fake, you know, because we live within a society. So the constructions within our society affect our daily lives, but, you know, it can be fluid. It doesn't have to be binary.
Yeah.
And that's a long-lasting impression from, you know, settler colonialism and imperialism. This, like, the spread of this belief that gender is only one option or the other option. And there's historical evidence that shows within other cultures that the idea of gender pre-colonization did not exist within a binary.
Sure.
And that's what I was trying to say to Ben Shapiro as my follow-up question after I said what I said to him. And he told me in response, they are wrong, right? I'm saying biologically, they are wrong, right? Now let's delve into why that's important for a second. That means that all of those cultures that do not ascribe to Ben Shapiro's idea of culture, which is white-dominated, white supremacist culture, are wrong. He's saying, in essence, if we do like what is the inverse of this statement? Logically, he would be saying that only white ideology is correct surrounding the concept of gender.
For me, I have a really big disagreement on that because it's like, what people need to really understand is so you're saying as in like, because I feel like with being a man and being a woman is not just about having the parts of what you identify as. I feel like it's more than, I would say, just having a penis or having boobs or having a vagina. I feel like it's just a vibe that you carry with that. Yeah. It's the worth that you get. Like, absolutely. You can look at somebody and be like, oh yeah, that's a real woman right there, or that's a real man right there, right? And so I feel like what it does is it creates a lot of confusion on, okay, if I can change my gender whenever I want to, then it's like, oh, let me just do something that will seem more feminine, or let me do something that will seem more masculine. Let me do things that I would say, let me do things that have each category of what feminine and what masculine is. And I feel like, to me, when he said men can't be women and women can't be men, is that, for me at least, is where I grasp, is that regardless on what your gender is, don't ignore your biological sex. Don't ignore what you came from first. So it's like... Okay,
I'm going to let you pause right there because I want to ask you a question. Where does this notion that trans people deny that they were not that they did not come from another gender before they're trans, where does that notion come from?
I don't think it's a denial. I think it's more of like, so is that a fact? Like, I'm asking you, is that a fact if no matter what gender you choose, you can't change your biological?
Your biological sex?
Yes.
Well, biological sex doesn't even exist within a binary. That's what, I mean, like, bro. High school biology is not definitive biology.
Okay.
And now, I know I said in the video that I'm a mathematician and a physicist, I said in the video that I posted on Instagram, that they should not be listening to me or Ben Shapiro because neither of us are experts. And I stand by that belief. And the reason I did that, the reason I shouted out my credentials, the reason I went up there was to mock Ben Shapiro, because that's the same manner in which he gains his credibility from his followers. He uses his Harvard Law degree, he uses his social influence as a political commentator to make people think...
He uses a lot of ethos.
Yeah, exactly. To make people think that he is qualified to speak on topics that he's not qualified to speak on. Like the dichotomy between transness and biological sex and their relationship, right?
So I got a question. What makes him qualified?
What makes him qualified to speak on that topic?
Yeah,
absolutely nothing. He doesn't have any He doesn't have any credibility to speak.
But I feel like as a heterosexual male, would you want to have an opinion? I feel like for me it's like whenever a heterosexual male has an opinion on something, right? I feel like a lot of people bash it down because it sounds transphobic or homophobic. And I feel like when we twist words around, because a girl sent me a video and said the same thing. He didn't say, hey, he said, hey, if that's what you want to identify as, go right ahead. But regardless of what you are, you're still biologically a male. You're still biologically a female.
That's a fallacious argument.
Okay. What do you mean fallacious?
I mean that's a fake argument. It's a fictitious argument. That argument doesn't make any sense. And I can explain to you why. But I also wanted to challenge the fact that heterosexual men are always bashed on something. first things first, there are lots of heterosexual men that love trans women, right? That will openly love trans women. They're not gay because they don't, because
that's
they're...
hard. That's a hard question.
No, they're not gay because they like trans women. They're still straight because she's a woman, because her gender is female. And when we talk about attraction, we talk about attraction to gender and not biological.
You're trying to buy the feminine
energy, the qualities of that person,
yeah.
and not necessarily their biological sex. Our attraction is not based off, I mean, like, yes, biological sex plays, like, role in it because, you know, we're attracted to people's bodies as well, but our attraction to other people is not just physical.
Yeah.
You know, there's a mental and emotional part to it too. There's a cultural part, a social part to our attraction to other people too. So, you know, a lot of that stuff has to do with social construction and not just what parts you have.
Okay, so let's talk about social, like social contracts or like social constructs, right? Mm-hmm. So there was this guy. He was white, but he felt like he was black. Mm-hmm. He felt inside of him that he was black. So he did a lot of things that was, you know, he started to make his skin blacker. He started to twist his hair. He started to braid his hair, right? And when people that were black telling him that he's not black, and he would have multiple attempts on suicide, does that give him a right to feel however he feels? So
that's very interesting, and because it's related, I want to use Rachel Dolezal as an auxiliary example. Because these two people both grew up white and are now trying to change themselves to be black, they absolutely have no idea what social issues we have to face, or like what our day-to-day lives go through. They don't know our experience, right? So to try to imitate our experience through, you know, trying to make their skin darker or anything like that, you know, that is offensive. Because like I said, that's a social construct. Yes. So it's like, isn't that the same? That's not what I think, but isn't that the same way as a trans person, or I guess like a male transitioning to a female? No, because gender does not have to exist in a binary. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Like, you're looking at it from, well, I was taught that there were two genders when I grew up, and so I see man changing to woman. Woman has specific experience that man doesn't get. If I change from man to woman, am I co-opting her experience? And that's a valid question if the gender binary had to be the only way we looked at gender, but it's not. So it's genderless. Not necessarily genderless. Perhaps there are as many genders as people that exist on the planet. That's very confusing as well. Why do you think so? It's very, like, you know, when people have like genders and sexualities, I feel like it's like you have a gender, you have a sexuality. Are you confused about yourself? No. Okay, so then why should it be confusing to anybody else? No, I'm saying it's confusing to me, as in like there's a lot going on. You get what I mean? It's not as confusing as I hate it. No, I'm not saying that you do. It's confusing as like for people to be like, oh my God, you could. It's a lot. That's so interesting, and the only reason that you feel that way is because your gender and your sexuality simply happens to align with the standards that we put in our society about gender. Mm-hmm. That's why you feel it's confusing, because to you never had to look at yourself and be like, okay, well, I'm supposed to be this, but I feel this way, and I'm told that that's not okay, and now I feel bad about myself because everybody's telling me that because I feel this way, there's something fundamentally wrong with me, right? So many people have that experience too, and so it's a privilege to be born with a mind and body and sexuality that fits into the ideals of your society. But what are our ideals based off of? White supremacy and the heteropatriarchy, you know? Okay. We're based on white supremacy, thinking that being straight is the default, and thinking that men should have more power over women. Like that's the basis of our society. Our ancestors, our black ancestors, literally built America with their hands, right? We have and there are so many other types of people that contributed to American society, like Chinese people in westward expansion working on railroads, you know, or the Japanese people that just happened to be interned, you know, by the government, you know, or the native people that lived here that were almost forced into genocide. Their stories are the American story as well. And a lot of those people in those stories are queer people like me. Right? Think about Langston Hughes, this epic literary figure during the Harlem Renaissance, and he was not heterosexual. Bayard Rustin was not heterosexual, and he helped organize the March on Washington. You know what I'm saying? And he was a deep political, he had really poignant political thoughts, socio-political thoughts about the black experience. You know, we people that are queer and we people that are black or brown or all of these different combinations of identities have always contributed to society and always been invested in its development.
Oh, yeah.
But we have just been silenced, or our histories have been erased by the people who are in power so they can co-opt it and continue to maintain power. And that is white heteropatriarchy supremacy. And
I think for me, or did you want to say something?
Yeah, I had a question. Did you have a similar experience when I won't say you discovered you were queer, but you started putting everything together? Damn, I might be you guys as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So, you know, in 5th grade, I had the biggest crush on this really cool girl who's still really cool. She's really smart, and I had a crush on her, and we used to spend every day in 5th grade together reading books in the little tunnel together, because I didn't really like to play outside. I was more of a reader as a kid. And then the next year, and so I was I have a crush on her. She's so sweet, blah, 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 whatever. And we stayed friends after kindergarten, whatever. Or after elementary school, whatever. I got to high school, or got to middle school, and, you know, we had our first dance. I was in 6th grade, and the boys didn't really want to dance with the girls because ew, cooties, or whatever, little kids are like. And so I danced with this boy, and he had red hair and auburn colored eyes, and he was really adorable as a little kid because we were both little kids. And I remember standing outside. We were both waiting for our parents to pick us up, and I looked at him, and the sun was shining in his hair, and their sunlight was hitting his eyes, and we were just talking. He smiled or something like that, and I was oh, what is this feeling? You know, what is this feeling? I've never felt that before since I felt this about her. And so I was okay, well, that's fine, you know. And then I told my mom, you know, and she was that's not cool. You can't be that way, blah, blah, blah. And I was oh, why is this wrong? And I also had experiences before, you know, my dad, I was getting my hair cut in my uncle's garage one time because he had a barbershop in his garage. And on the TV, they had just talked about, you know, them repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, right? So now military members can serve openly with their queer identities. And my dad looked at me and told me, you know, don't ever be gay, blah, blah, blah. I was 9. I was what does that even mean? Yeah. You know, why are you so angry? What does that mean? And so I didn't understand. I was really confused. And then I kept growing up, and I told my mom about that, and she was well, are you gay? And then I was what is, my dad said don't be gay. She asked me, am I gay? Does that mean that I'm bad? And so it took me some time, but by the time, I've definitely grown more into my queer identity in college, but I've always kind of been a little, I don't really give a fuck, I'll do what I want. If you don't accept me, that's not my problem, because I'm going to live the life I want to live, and you're not going to restrict me from doing that. Yeah. You know? My mom was you can never date anybody until you get out of our house, until you go to college. And as a 15-year-old kid, you're what the fuck? I want to do what I want to do. You know what I'm saying? And so I had my first boyfriend when I was 15. I brought him over. I did what I wanted. Not you know, any sexual stuff or anything like that, but you know, I brought him around to show her that I don't care. You're going to have to accept me or not. You know? And that's how I've always been with both of my parents, because I know that I'm different, and you know, if you claim to love me unconditionally, then you have to love who I am, and not this ideal of what you would want me to be.
True. Yeah.
Absolutely. So
I stopped because I know someone who is not only was I curious, but I know someone who is hiding, you know, their sexuality from their parents. Yeah. And I just wanted to, you know, hopefully they see this and get some courage to, you know, tell them. But another question is, why do you think they feel so threatened by the queer community that need to suppress? You know, for it's so weird to me. what is the danger of like
I think the
being
danger is with the kids. I think that's really the biggest danger. I don't think the danger is.
Well, what do you mean by that?
So,
like with the kid. I mean, I just explained to you my.
No. I'm just. This is just very a general perspective.
Okay.
That don't mean that. I'm just talking. So,
Okay. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So it's like. So the thing is like what I try to do is that like, is that something that like. Like, do you? I have, queer gay members. I have queer family members. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that, like, because, like, what I've seen is, like, on Nickelodeon, if you didn't see that, they was repping the Pride Month. Mm-hmm. And as a result, they were getting backlash for promoting that on a kid's show. And you start to see more of, like, Superman being bisexual or SpongeBob being, having a sexuality. They're expressing those things. Mm-hmm. And pretty much like there was a joke that said actually SpongeBob is asexual because he's a sponge. So like how do you feel that I guess like some I guess like cartoon shows are expressing these this ideal now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they call it the gay agenda.
They call it the gay agenda. Yeah, I know, it's so funny. Yeah. Well, I think it's fantastic. I literally just explained to you guys my when I first had a conception of my queerness. Yeah. And that age group was from like 10 to like 13. I really kind of figured it out that I like, people of all genders,
Because that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Like I didn't even know that they're like, of course as a little kid, you're taught what your parents want you to teach you. And so I only thought about girls and boys and I was like, okay, well, I think both of them are cool. I like both, and then as I grew up and it happened in high school. I remember it happened in high school my freshman year. I had a girlfriend, like she was a cis woman, and she was super cool, but we broke up for whatever reason. And then after like a couple of months, I started liking this trans guy, and and this was the first trans person I'd ever met. And he was a senior and I was a freshman, so obviously this was never gonna work. Like in my little freshman mind, I was like, oh my god, like I think they're so cute, like they're non-binary. I was like, oh my god, I think they're so cute, blah, 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 whatever. And so we would always hang out and have cool conversations. And, I don't, like my first initial, whenever I approach someone, I always approach someone with like respect and like with a sense of openness because you're a human being as well. Exactly. Like I recognize that, even if we might not all agree on the same things, it's so cool that we all get to, experience the physical world, or we get to experience emotions, and we get to experience all these like things. They might not all be the same or the same experience, but we all experience them some way.
It's funny how like I was dating this girl for a minute, and like I was driving with her friend, and he was gay. Yeah. And he was like, yo, I'm about to take him out on a date. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, what do you look like? And then he started telling all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm into the conversation. Yeah. And he was like, wow, I feel like one of the bros. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what? You know what I mean? So it's like, so I just feel like when you have these conversations, I'm open-minded into those conversations. Yeah. It's just that when I guess like that is being forced onto other people, I would say, I feel like that's really my biggest issue.
Well, so I want to talk about the concept of like this idea that like there is a gay agenda and that it is being forced on younger children. Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't see it that way because as a younger child, it would have been so much less confusing for me if I had been able to see that in a positive, aspect or portrayed positively and been like, oh, okay, like, oh, people can do this. This is an option for me as well. Like
you can be gay and still get along with people that are not gay.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's not weird.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. It's not weird at all. Like my best friend is straight. Mm-hmm. Most of my friends are straight. Mm-hmm. And I'm like this super like I'm very comfortable with my queerness. I'm very comfortable with my blackness. But I'm super cool with all these diverse types of people because I'm super cool with their Mexicanness and their culture. I'm super cool with the fact that, oh, your mom's an immigrant from Italy? Dope. Like, that's fire. Like, I want to learn more about your culture, That's fantastic. That's cool. I don't have this experience as a human, I don't understand the Mexican experience, I don't understand the Chinese experience, but it's so cool that it's so different and that you get to share that with me. We should celebrate that, you know? We should celebrate that. All of our differences. Because it all comes together to make a cool story about what is humanity and what being a human is, you know? So why would we want to pick out some of these stories because some people feel some type of way about it, you know? That's so degrading to humanity as a whole, because you're saying like, oh, well, this experience doesn't agree with what these people said, and we're going to let all of them get to tell us about how we get to express our humanity? No. Why would I do that? I'm not going to let nobody tell me what to do. I'm going to be who I was born to be.
Yeah. So when you had that like epiphany, was there like some type of influence that you had prior to that?
Yes, the death of Trayvon Martin was my radicalizing moment.
I'm saying of you being
queer.
Queer, yeah.
Oh, my fault.
I mean both. You could describe both, but
so I like when did I become like more comfortable with my queerness?
No, I'm saying like you were talking about a story when you was like in 5th grade.
Yeah.
So was there a prior influence?
A prior influence to me feeling queer?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I just like I didn't even think that it was an issue. Like to myself it wasn't an issue because it's how I felt. Yeah. You know, you only get to understand your experience, and especially as a young child, you really don't have the capacity to empathize with other people or like think from different perspectives. So in my perspective, I was like, oh, like this person might be a boy, but they make me feel really happy. I really like hanging out with them. That's super fun, you know, as a kid. And then with girls, it was like, oh, she's like pretty. Like I like talking to her. It's so fun. And then as you grow up, it like develops more into like, oh, I'm interested in you. You know, like, oh, like, you know, and all these different things, you know, like when you start, you know, developing sexuality and sexual feelings, you know, that happiness turns into those sexual feelings. And because it was so natural for me to feel that happiness, why would it have been unnatural for me to feel sexual desire for that range of people, you know?
Wow. Because when we talk about, I guess, like getting into those sexualities, we always tend to think more of the nurture aspect instead of just like the nature aspect. So it's like that. I think that's something good that you're willing to acknowledge those type of things and be open about it. So like I guess like if there was someone that strictly disagreed with your views, do you think there could be, even with Ben Shapiro even, do you think there could be a understanding?
Disagree with my views? Well, it depends on what you mean. I posted something that on Instagram like before I came here because I was at the police department earlier, you know, discussing with detectives, you know, there was some like sort of like backlash, you know, what they could do, and it's not like super serious right now. Like I haven't been like actually threatened, but you know, there's like, you know, we still want you to be aware of these resources and like what your options are if something does happen. But I posted on Reddit, like as my final statement to the AMA that I had, I said this, and I feel like this clarifies wholeheartedly like how I feel to the people that don't support me or don't have my point of view. I said, you know, and like the right wing space of Twitter or even just like when right wing media, you know, your echo chamber is deafening you to the amount of support that I'm receiving right now. I said, unlike you, I see both the positive and the negative comments, you know, about my actions. And due to that, I have the most accurate viewpoint of the situation and am the best possible person to be able to make judgments about what actions I should or shouldn't take with the counsel and support of my professors, my institution, my friends, my family, other scientists and NSF fellows, other activists, and the queer and other marginalized people and our allies who find pride in the boldness of my statements. You know, as a queer black scientist, there will always be a humanitarian aspect to my work. And I said, note that I didn't say political or social justice, because I will always fight for all of us humans that are dehumanized by the society that we live in. Because no one deserves to have the expression of their humanity limited in any circumstance, and especially not through institutional and systemic means. I said, if you cannot agree with that, then I don't want your support, because to not want that is evidence of abject moral failure, and that is an objective truth. And that was the end of my statement. But that's literally, that's how I feel about this entire perspective. That's my perspective.
Because like I feel like when you disagree with those type, like when you disagree, right? And I feel like there still can be an understanding, but because when we think understanding means agreeing, they mean different things.
Yeah.
So it's like, regardless of how I feel, I wouldn't want to see you hurt. Because like I've heard this guy, he was like, some guy threw a can at him because he thought he was being too feminine. Regardless of I never want to put hands on you. I never want to disrespect you or make you feel some type of way.
Yeah.
Like, if that's our disagreement, then that's what it's going to have to be. But I'm not going to disrespect you as a person. It's just based off of from what I've heard from different people, what I hear from maybe even heterosexual celebrities. They are often have to accept the LGBT community so they can be accepted. You know what I mean? Like with Joe Budden, he said, "I like guys and girls," or
he said that.
Yeah, he did, but it wasn't for the sake of it wasn't for the sake of him actually liking guys and girls. Okay. It was for more of like, okay, let me prove that I can be socially accepted if I said that. And I feel like when we say, hey, I don't, like, okay, let me ask you a question. Are you transphobic if you don't, I guess, look at dating preferences for trans?
If the sole reason you're not going to date somebody is because they're trans, I actually am not qualified to speak on that or answer that question because I am not trans. Okay. And so I don't want to co-opt their experience or like answer this question for them. My personal feelings are, yes, it is, but I'm not an authority on transness. You know, I'm simply an ally, so I don't want to co-opt their experience.
Because for me, it's like, just because I have this dating preference does not mean I'm not going to respect you. I'm not going to not treat you a certain way because I don't like you as a dating preference.
Yes, I understand that. In my view, well, I have to ask the question, is it because you don't view them as women?
No, I don't prefer them.
Well, do you like women?
Yeah. I like women, yeah.
Are trans women?
I can't really say that.
Sure. And so that's the problem. Like, that you don't agree. Or you have some...
No,
Or you have some, like, apprehension about agreeing about the womanhood of trans women.
No, I kind of agree with Gifted. Like, I'm also not into trans women.
Yeah.
Because, like, it depends on, like, how far along the process they are.
Okay, but so let's say that this... And so it's okay to, like, have... it's okay to be attracted to certain types of genitalia, I guess. Yeah. Because, like, not every body is something that is a body that you're going to be attracted to. Yeah. So if you have, like, body-specific preferences, is that okay? Yes. But if someone has transitioned, you know, and now fits the description of these body-specific preferences that you have, why would you deny them the opportunity, or why would you deny yourself the opportunity to get to know them? That's the real question.
You get to know them, but that don't mean that...
But I mean get to know in a romantic sense.
But I feel like if that person doesn't like them, who are you to tell somebody if you should like them or not?
I'm not saying that.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you because this is having a conversation. Yeah. So it's like, but when people say that, it's like, I'm not going to disrespect you. Yeah. That's just the romantic sense. That don't mean if you needed a shirt, I won't give you a shirt. That don't mean if you needed help with your math homework, that don't mean I won't help you. Yeah. It's just more of like just that dating sense. I feel like that's just not me. So I feel like when we say that, it's, oh, you're transphobic, or you're this, or you're that, and I don't think, and that's what creates that divide.
Yes, and so you're right. My mom tells me this all the time. She says this to me all the time. She's like, you cannot just put labels on everything, or you cannot just put, like, you know, you cannot just call people like X or Y or Z, you know, like to like criticize them, and we even talk about this like in my communication class, you know, like when we're.
Who's your teacher?
Her name is Nichelle. She's fire. She's amazing. She's a great teacher. But, you know, we have to, you know, like, we have to use constructive criticism, you know, and even, maybe not even to criticize, but just to get people to think, which is why I'm saying this to you, like, you know, you can have specific body preferences, and then I ask the question, you know, but why would you not give yourself the opportunity to know somebody else romantically when they fit your body-specific sexual preferences, you know, even if they're trans, you know? Is it because you do not see them as women?
I mean, because you have your ideal perspective of what a woman is, right?
Yeah.
You got it.
So back to that, like, so would that be the case? Like, let's say I don't prefer to date, like a bigger woman. Would that make me like fat phobic?
Is the only reason you're not trying to date her because she's bigger? Is that the only thing that then I think that yes, I kind of do think that makes you fat phobic.
I mean, but it's
and like, you know, who am I? I mean, but why? Because there are big women that are beautiful, and you know that's true.
That's true, but that's just not my preference. You know what I'm saying?
And but the sole reason is because they have more fat on them. And do you think that means they're more unhealthy? Like, what associations what associations do you have with fatness? Mm-hmm. You know, that's the question that I would ask you next. Instead of, you know, I revoke my statement because I don't want to put any, like, you know, labels on you as fat phobic. But the question that I want to ask you is, what associations do you have with fatness? You know, that's what I would ask you to get you to start thinking about that relationship. You know, if we were to be talking about fat phobia, you know, just to get you to think about that and why. You know,
wouldn't it be like the case where if a girl's like they don't like a shorter guy, they like prefer a taller guy or something like that, or the opposite?
Is that short phobic?
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
because everybody has their preferences.
Because people do have preferences. People do have preferences, and it's okay to have preferences. You know, but we shouldn't necessarily demonize everybody for having preferences. Yeah. But things like racial preference is the reason why I think it's racism, because this is a human being, right? You recognize their humanity.
Yeah.
We are attracted to humans. You know, human beings are attracted to other humans, right? So the fact that the only reason you're not attracted to this human is it perhaps because you see them as subhuman?
You're not seeing them as subhuman though. Just because you wouldn't date them, that don't mean you're seeing them as a subhuman.
So okay. Then now the question is, what type of people would you not date?
I mean, like, we all have our types, and it's like
I have my types too. I have my preferences.
But like, that's like me saying this. I feel like this is like me saying like if that makes you happy, do you like I'm not gonna bash you down for it. If that is your type, I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Like, if that's what you genuinely like, yo, I'm in love with it. I don't care if it's a guy, girl, animal, whatever.
Well, I disagree with that one. I disagree with that one.
But if you like, if that is what you want to do, go ahead. Okay. That's fine. But if you're bashing people down for it, that's a different story. If you're like, oh, I want to date no black girl, and then you're bashing other people down to do that, that's disrespectful. Because it's like, if you're spreading that propaganda and you're having a collective point of view because of what you think, then you shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? But if that is your preference, that don't mean I see you as a less human. That don't mean that I see you as a piece of crap.
Interesting. Here's how I think about it. I have preferences too.
Yeah.
You know, my last two partners were both Latinx. One was a woman, one was a man. I love Latinx people, you know? And I like people with brown skin, you know? So if you have brown skin, regardless of your race, you know, I'm probably going to be more attracted to you. And that is my preference. That does not mean that I don't date white people. I do date white people, you know? My preferences are not exclusionary.
It's just what you prefer.
It's just what you prefer. But if you would exclude someone because of these preferences that you have, then that's no longer a preference. In my mind.
But I feel as if it's just, I do feel as if it's coming from a biased, because I can't agree with that. If it's coming from a biased or whatever, then it's like, you know, then I think you should maybe get some personal help with that if it's from those biases. But that don't mean that, like, they have some sort of hatred towards them or some sort of animosity.
Yes, but bias can be just as dangerous as hatred. You know, when it comes to the system, absolutely it can. I think that, you know, like microaggressions, for example, not all of them are intended to be harmful. There's not always a harmful intention.
But it can have a harmful effect.
It can have a harmful effect, absolutely. And so that's what I think we need to remember.
That's true. And then also is more of, because and I feel like when people have this, they want to automatically put labels, and I think you made a good point with that. is like just because we have a view that's associated with it, that don't mean that's your view. Yeah. They can get it from somewhere else. So it's like, okay, and I got a whole bunch of questions, but I feel like when you have those labels, I feel like that, like again, there's just so much a big divide with having these conversations because you willing to put this label over what one person said. And
so here's one of the reasons why I think that is. I think it's because we have, and so this is such a difficult thing to say because, you know, identity is inherently political within our society, right? You know, because of like social justice movements, because of all of the inequities that exist within our society, our identities have kind of had to become political so that we can make changes in politics that can affect our lives in a more positive sense. But the problem with politicizing identity is that identity isn't inherently political. Okay, so I said it was inherently political. I have to change that statement.
They made it political.
They made it. It was made to be political. But identity is not inherently political in itself. Is my view.
Yeah.
Is my philosophical view, right? And so I think when we have these conversations, we're looking at them from a political perspective and not from a humanitarian perspective or a humanistic perspective.
And that's what you're talking about with politicians.
Yes, and I, as a person and as an activist, I understand that, you know, this is political because it has been made to be political, but my personal feelings about other human beings is that my motivation for putting this into the political sphere is because I have that humanistic connection with everybody else, and I recognize our shared humanity, and I recognize the detriment that limiting the expression of somebody's humanity has on everyone, you know? Okay. And so I will always fight against that.
So would you fight against if someone was expressing how much they're, like, I would say the opposite, like heterosexual, I would say?
So can you explain what you mean a little bit more?
Like, I would say more as in, like, because, like, there has been times where, like, someone may have expressed them being, I mean...
Like, they're saying they're straight or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm, like, strictly heterosexual? That's fine.
Because I feel like some people may get bashed down, and that's
if they say they're only straight? That's kind of funny. And so, I am not straight, and I'm not going to tell you that your experience is invalid.
Yeah.
But I think that that's interesting because in the world that I live in, that does not happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like if that does happen, it might happen. That might occur, but does it occur on such a scale that it's relevant? I don't think so.
But just because it's not on the scale, it doesn't mean that it doesn't happen.
Because what are the repercussions of somebody saying, you know, I'm straight, and people being like, ew, you know? There's no systemic repercussions. There are no institutional repercussions. But there are institutional repercussions when someone's like, oh, I'm gay, and they're like, you're going to jail for buggery laws, you know? Back in England in like the 19th century, or early 20th century, probably both. You're going to jail for buggery laws because sodomy laws because sodomy is a crime. Sodomy is a sin, right? Like, that's an institutional effect, you know?
But do you think also now is becoming, because like I know Dave Chappelle, he compared to the LGBT community as a mob, or as a mafia. So do you believe that them trying to cancel him was the right thing to do?
Cancel culture is an interesting topic.
We don't got to get into about the action itself. Do you think that was necessary?
So my thing is, you know, freedom of speech. You know, people are allowed to say whatever they want to say within the confines of what is protected in freedom of speech. You know, and also people are allowed to react in the confines of the law however they want to react. Is it illegal to cancel somebody? No. Is it morally wrong? In some situations, yes. But people are still allowed to be able to express their opinion, and that's okay.
So would you say the same thing with Ben Shapiro?
Would I say the same? I mean, people.
No, I'm saying what he said. Would you say the same thing to him? Because it's really an opinion, right? Do you think that's an opinion?
No, because of the systemic and institutional effects that his words have on society. No, it's not just an opinion. It's an opinion that reaches the ears of lawmakers and are then written down and instituted into law. And then that affects the lives of actual people. That's not an opinion. That's systemic violence. That's institutional violence.
Credibility into it.
Oh, it's not credible because
I'm saying it has a lot more
weight in the eyes of other people. Yes, it does. But it's based off of false credibility.
And would you say the same? Because like I feel like like when you have people that say these things, and when people follow into these ideals, honestly, I don't really know fully of Ben Shapiro. I don't think.
Me either. No.
How about?
I mean, I watched a little bit.
And some of his views are very black and white, and I can agree that it can't. Not everything can't be so simple. You know what I mean? So it's like there was a thing he had with Joe Rogan to where he said, well, if you got black people, they doing crime, just don't do the crime. Well, when you're in an environment to where all these things are happening, their mindset is like a cover-up multiple choice question. The only answer is A.
That's a perfect way to put it. Yeah.
They don't see B, C, and D. They see only A, which you do the same thing.
Because your circumstances blind you to the other options. Exactly. Because there are not always other options based off of the system that we live in the world that you have to inhabit and navigate. So like you're not always given options. You're not always given opportunity. Yeah. And sometimes you have to think, oh shit, my kid needs to fucking eat. Yeah. I might have to sell some weed today so my kid can eat. Yeah. The crime happens because selling weed, at least in the state of North Carolina, is decriminalized, but it used to be legal. But that crime happened due to an unfulfilled need, which is the resources to support yourself and your family.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel like some of his black and white views can be very, I guess, misleading to some people, and I do agree with that. Mm-hmm. I do, right? It's just with just current situation. And look, I don't stand for, because I saw the messages. Yeah. I don't stand for you saying you a monkey, and that's disrespectful. You know what I mean? Regardless on
more than that, I think racism is violence.
Exactly.
It's violent. Racism is violence. Exactly. Because what were these words to our ancestors? They were the words that they heard before they were hanged from trees and burned, and white people sat down and ate food, had picnics. That's where the word comes from, because they used to call little black children pickaninnies, right? Mm-hmm. That's where the word comes from. They used to have picnics and sit and eat underneath our burning bodies, or turn our hair into stuffing into couches. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is violence. Yeah. That's violence. And so to use that word, against somebody who has that ancestry is a form of violence. Facts. Because you are calling back to that past, and that could be a possible implication of the present or the future,
Because that's something I don't stand for neither. That's really anybody. Like I understand, like I may have a disagreement with you, but I don't, like, and see, like, just because I don't agree with it, like, even in a dating standard, just because I don't see you as a potential mate doesn't mean that I'm not gonna fuck with you. That don't mean that I'm not gonna shoot you with, like, honestly, I'm like, okay, like, what? I'm curious, like, not curious and like I want to be like that, but curious is like, what made you? You know what? Because I went to a gay club. I never seen so many guys twerking in my life. It was crazy.
Bro. Gay clubs are the best clubs. I'm sorry, straight people. I love y'all, but gay people, they just do it better, bro. I can't even lie.
I was like, what's going on? I was confused, but I just feel like, it's just like, as long, because like, here's the thing, I just feel like when we don't respect one another, and let me ask you a question. So like, okay, so like, do you identify as LGBT community? I'm just asking.
I have a queer experience.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So like, how do you feel that some people may, and I've seen this before, like with Dr. Umar, do you know him?
Umar Johnson?
Yes.
Yeah, that guy.
So he did an interview with someone that was part of the LGBT community, and he pretty much was like asking questions like, oh, are you male or female? Are you black? And I feel like, I don't know.
Wait, bro, I feel like I know what you're talking about.
There was a guy with the hat, with the haircut. Yeah. So like, and then when you talk about with the Langston Hughes, and how like, so I feel like with those type of people, they identify themselves as black. Like, regardless of what my sexuality is, the first thing they're going to see is your skin. And so I feel like with that, he wasn't really acting like he was a part of being black. He was part of the LGBT community.
That's interesting that you say that, and here's what I'm going to say, you know, my queerness is not disconnected from my blackness.
Yes.
My queerness and my blackness are intertwined because it's not like, you know, on one layer it's blackness and then on another layer it's, you know, being queer and another layer it's being a man. No, it's not like layers, you know, it's like a puzzle, you know, to see the whole and complete picture of who I am and my experience. You have to put all of the pieces of the puzzle of my gender, of my race, of my sexual orientation, you know, of my socioeconomic class, of my education level. All of those go into making the portrait of who I am. And to deny one piece of that is to take out pieces of the puzzle and not completely see me for who I am.
Yeah.
That's how I view identity, you know.
Because also I feel like for me, regardless of if I am that, if I'm around certain people or whatever like that, I'm black at the end of the day. That's something that I can't change. Mm-hmm. I can't change. You can change what you wear. You can change, like even with gender. You can change your identity. Yeah. Like for me, you can change that. Can you change that? Your gender? Your gender? Can you?
I mean, again, I'm not trans, so I don't know. Like for me, for example, you know, I identify as somebody that's, you know, like I say he, him and stuff, but, you know, gender to me, I know that's a social construct, you know. I'm like, I mean, I'll say I'm a man for convenience, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you know, and even just physically, the way that I look, you know, like there have been times, especially when I was younger in high school, people were like, oh, you're so pretty for a boy. Or like, oh, like, you know, you have really feminine, like, features as a man. So I've always been, like, you know, treated in this, like, weirdish kind of way. Yeah. Like, yeah, like, you were born a man and you're a man, but, oh, like, your features are kind of feminine.
You can still, you can still have those features, you know what I mean? Like, you know, that's fine. I just, like, because, like, I feel like with just being black, you can't change that. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like that's the first thing that they're going to identify you as. Mm-hmm. So,
and maybe in American society that is true. But just because they identify me that way doesn't mean that that's the only thing that I am. Why is their impression of me have to define who I am?
Yeah.
You know, that's their impression. I am black, you know. I'm black as fuck. I will claim blackness till the day that I fucking die. I'm also queer. I'm going to claim that till the day I fucking die. I come from a low economic socio status. You know, and when I become the successful person that I'm going to be, I'm going to turn around and lift up my people and bring them to where I am. And not just my black people, but all of the people whose struggles are interconnected with our struggle. Because if I eat, everybody eat. And that's my mentality.
Why are you taking my slang for?
I mean, I just gotta be real. Like, I just gotta be real. Like, that's how I feel. Like, I'm not on no, like, play shit. Like, for real, I'm trying to change the world. Not just through my interaction with Ben Shapiro. Like, I have the opportunity, I worked hard to gain the opportunity to go to get my PhD with the help of this phenomenal scholarship, this phenomenal fellowship, right? And I did that, you know, with the help and support of all the people around me, absolutely. But that was my work too. You know, that was my work at the end of the day. They supported me, but that was me. You feel me? And so I deserve that.
So like out of the communities, who you think supported you a lot more?
Bro, I have such a diverse group of friends that every type of person supported me. My best friend Mexican, my other best friend black, you know, my professor is white, you know, my other professor is Indian, you feel me? My one of my best friends is trans and black, you know. I have so many different types of people supporting me. It wasn't just the community, it was my community, the community that I built that supported me. You know, my chosen family, you feel me?
Oh, sure.
And that's made up of all different types of people.
Yeah.
Straight, gay, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, everybody. You feel me? They all, and like, you know, because we're people at the end of the day and we love each other and go support each other, regardless of our differences. In fact, that adds to the love that I have for them because we get to have different experiences together. I get to have more unique and more interesting experiences with these different types of people than I would have had simply by myself because, you know, I get to be introduced to that. And also, I have the comfort of going back to my own culture when I need to or want to and feeling that connection as well. You know, it's not an either or, it's an and. We can always do both, right? And that's how I feel.
How would you feel that some people feel like you can't be both?
You can't, I mean, I think it's lack of imagination. You just got to dare to dream bigger.
Like, you can't be both part of the black community and the LGBT community?
That, I mean,
there's
no black liberation unless there's black lives don't matter unless all black lives matter. Mm-hmm. Period. There's no black liberation just for heterosexual black men, cisgender black men. If it's just y'all, where does that leave me? If y'all the only ones liberated and I'm still oppressed, are black people really free? Because I am black. If my freedom is restricted, are black people free?
I mean, I would say yeah, because you're black. It applies to everybody.
But I'm not free if y'all don't accept me because I'm queer. Am I free then? Are black people, because if if my ability to function within society is inhibited due to my queerness, if we reach this era of racial acceptance, but we don't accept queer people and we don't accept trans people and all these different types of people, then we'll still have people that are oppressed within society. We might have fixed the race problem, but the queer people problem, not that the queer people are the problem, but the haters of queer people problem. That's how I want to frame it. The haters of queer people problem that we have within America is going to affect those very queer people that they hate, and they're going to have, and they're going to be inhibited in the ways in which they can navigate within society, and that's going to include a lot of black people, right? And so they won't be free, right? And so all black people aren't free. So are black people free?
And like in a sexual aspect, they won't, not like having sex, but I'm saying like what you identify as sexually. You're saying they won't be free because that's something that is a part of me, right? And it'll be maybe because I'm black. But if you want to talk about personality-wise, I won't be actually free because my personality is being oppressed.
Well, it's not even just personality. It really, because there are different types of queer people. I don't know if I come off as feminine or not. I don't really care. But some people, are really feminine, and some people are really macho and really masculine, and they still might love men. That has nothing, your gender presentation, the way that you present yourself as a man or a woman, and the people that you're attracted to don't have to be related. So I would say that with identity, can you ask the question again? I went a little farther.
I don't even know, to be honest. I think really I think it's good that you're giving your perspective, because my perspective is a little bit different, and for you to say that and say it wasn't an outside influence, that's how I felt. So, and I think it's good for you to tell stories, especially with other people that go through that type of stuff. And I may have a little disagreement on that, but I don't mean I can understand, in some sort of way, because it's that is hard when you don't know what's going on and you don't know what you're feeling. And when you don't know what you're feeling and you're trying to figure out what you're feeling, you don't know what it is. But you just know there's something, I'm not going to say off, but there's just something that you need to find out. And that's something that people need to understand within themselves.
Absolutely. And you need to figure it out because it's not presented as an option. And so you don't know that you can ask the question to find the answer that you're looking for. Because you're not even given the information to be able to ask the question. And that, to me, is what's really the sad part. That we're taking away these options for people to be able to ask these questions, to be able to introspect and figure out who they really are within society. If we limit, people from the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, if we limit people from saying to people that we're gay or asking for resources when we come out, then we're limiting that person's ability to have the resources to not only gain support but even ask the question, who am I? That's anti-humanitarian, because again we're limiting people's choices of how they can express their humanity, and that to me is against my morals. That's against my morals. I can't stand for that, and I've got to fight against that, because I think that's oppression, and I'm not here for oppression. Like I said again, if I'm eating, everybody eating. You feel me? I want all my people to succeed. You feel me? Black, brown, white, if you're for me and I'm for you and we can all be for each other, then I'm gonna be for you hard as fuck. And that's how I feel about it. And that's how I really feel like all of us should feel about it. Really, that's how I feel. I want to get to a point in America where that happens. Do
you think we can ever come to that point?
I'm trying to do the work to make sure it happens. And I'm not alone. There are people nowadays that are hopefully gaining similar views, and even if they're not, just putting it out there. Because having conversations isn't always about shifting people's perspective. Mm-hmm. It's giving them the information and the ideas and the perspective to be able to make their own decisions about how they feel. Yeah. That's why I want to have these conversations, to give people the options that were taken away from them, Yeah. Mm-hmm. To expose them to the fact that they can ask more questions than simply what they're given based off of the circumstances of their birth, or where they live, or what they look like, or who they like. You should be able to ask those questions and figure out who you are.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's a disservice to humanity and to Americans and to anybody if they're restricted from being able to ask those questions.
True.